Hello and welcome back to the channel. So I put up a poll not too long ago about which one would you pick if you could only pick one. Boeing, Airbus, CRJ, and the ERJ, E-Jet. And I was just blown away by the overwhelming favorable Airbus. And it's really interesting. And, we're talking about flight simming in general. And I would assume, primarily based on this channel, that most of the people that come to this channel are Microsoft Flight Sim users, whether it's 2020 or 2024. That part really doesn't matter because at the end of the day, there are a handful of Boeing aircrafts available, and there is a handful of Airbus aircrafts available. And so for this video, we're going to kind of put the CRJ and the ERJ on the side as they really didn't do well in that poll. And what I want to talk about is why I personally prefer the Boeing over Airbus. And this has nothing to do with developers whatsoever. Absolutely nothing. I feel like what the team over at Fenix have done is quite impressive. And I've talked about it before on my streams and maybe in some videos, but I um I was a late bloomer when it came to the Airbus, to the Phoenix. I was a very late bloomer. I saw the fly-by-wire come out and I was like, why would I spend more money, or why would I spend any money, period, on another Airbus A320 when I could use a free one that's just as good? And then finally, I got convinced to give that Phoenix a try. And wow, was I blown away. I didn't think there was going to be any aircraft that could pull me from the PMDG 737 700, especially when that was released. I thought there was nothing available in the market. And what I'm talking about today is the Boeing 737 700, because that's my personal favorite, or the Boeing Max. And that is from iFly. I'm not talking about the Asobo one, which for I've talked about it before as a free aircraft. It was good, but when you're comparing it to the iFly, leaves some to be desired. No different than the default A320 when that was released, and how you can't really compare that to the Phoenix because as good as it was, it still is not on par with the team that's doing, you know, work for just one plane. So, okay, now that that's done and over with, let's start the conversation. And that is why I prefer the Boeing over an Airbus. And again, this has nothing to do with the companies themselves or the real life planes. This is just in the sim alone. So for me, a Boeing makes me feel like a pilot, and an Airbus makes me feel like a systems manager, right? And a lot of people have talked about this. You talk to real world pilots, and they talk about how with a Boeing plane, you kind of feel the power in your hands. You're using a yoke, you feel the power, you have to manually trim the aircraft, you have to give it more left input, more right input, you have to do more, with the elevation. Is a lot more to control with the Boeing aircraft in the controls itself than the automation that the Airbus A320 offers. And that's the two planes we're kind of going against today. Okay, and this is just a friendly conversation piece, right? It has nothing to do with, which one actually is better in real life. This is just a friendly conversation piece. Now, the next thing is a little bit more interesting because let's talk about the yoke. Okay, so Boeing's typically, I think they all do, have a yoke. And Airbuses, well, all the modern ones have a side stick. And in the sim, well, you could fly with whatever you want. You can fly with a joystick in a Cessna. You can fly with a yoke and an F-16. You know what I mean? So in this regards, it comes down to what your personal preference is to use as a peripheral. And for me, if you've been on this channel, I have a Honeycomb Alpha. Absolutely love this Alpha. It is an incredible product. It is going super strong. Well, we're 5 years later, and it's like brand new still. This is a incredible product. And there's been other things that have kind of steered me away from potentially leaving the Alpha, but I always come back. I'm a very faithful person when it comes to this Alpha. So I even I did a review here up on the channel, a Wing Ursa Minor, a side stick. I thought maybe that would be the thing that pulls me aside and says, hey, we're going back to side sticks, because that's where I started. I started with a joystick. I started with a side stick. I had the Thrustmaster TCA with Flight Sim 2020. Before that, I had a Thrustmaster something. Who knows what it was. But I started with a joystick. And when I got my first taste with the Alpha, I was like, I can't do this. But as I learned it, oh my gosh, the comfort level is it a whole different beast. When, it's one of the things where I can't land a plane with my left hand with a joystick, but I primarily fly with the left hand with the yoke. Explain that one to me. No sense made. The next step is when it comes to the add-ons themselves. We're putting this against the PMDG 737 and the iFly 737 MAX, and it's going up against the Fenix. Okay, and I guess I'll even throw in the Inabuild 350 because, the 350's made a lot of progress and it has become a much better plane since the release. And you look at the quality of both products and they're pretty dang even, right? The visuals are off the chart with all four of those products. The sounds are very, very good with all four of those products. And the flight dynamics are pretty impressive. So I can't grade either one of these planes the top dog because they're all pretty damn good. It just comes down to your personal preference and what you are looking for in an airliner. Some offer a little bit more deeper depth of a system, and others offer just better sound in general. And so if I had to put it into the sound category, because that's where I feel I can break it down the best, and I'm going to put actually two Boeings against each other for this one. The iFly, in my opinion, with the default sound system of the iFly, which is the Boris sound pack, is superior to the PMDG 737. But now if you throw in the Boris sound pack to the PMDG, which is an add-on to that plane, they're pretty much equal, right? But by default, the iFly, in my opinion, has the better sound pack. So again, and I can't really compare the Fenix and the 350. I don't know what the 350 sounds like in real life. I've never been a passenger in a 350. I have been in a 320, and it sounds pretty dang good. Pretty dang good. Now, fewer automation layers equals more learning. So with a Boeing, I feel like I'm consistently engaged. With an Airbus, not so much. I feel like with an Airbus, I'm going to sit there mostly on that McDo and be popping in some buttons, pushing in here and there, and eventually the plane will land at the airport. With the Boeing, obviously, yeah, you still have an FMC to program, but you're also doing a lot more hands-on when it comes to that departure and that arrival of the plane. And then let's talk about the past. I got into Flight Sim back in 1998 with Flight Sim 98. And the first aircraft I flew in the sim was the 737. And I flew it non-stop. All the time. My routes, well, a lot of time were Minneapolis to Chicago O'Hare. And I had so much fun flying it. I think that plays a major factor into why I still absolutely love flying the 737 in Flight Sim 2020 and 2024 is because of the past, the history I have connected with that plane. Even as a child, I flew on a 737 an awful lot, comparing it to an Airbus. Now, at the end of the day, you fly what you want to fly. I believe the Boeing, in my opinion, is the better plane to fly in the sim. But again, if you're an Airbus person, you love your Airbus. If you're a Boeing person, you love your Boeing. And then you know what? There are people who fly all of it like I do. Thanks for watching this channel. Leave me a comment down below what your favorite plane is to fly. Which developer made the best plane that you love to fly? And we'll see you for the next one. As always, take care.